What's up, everybody? It's your favorite Red Bull's favorite nerd, and today we are looking at the Cang Toys Landbull. This is on loan to me from Joel W., who was gracious enough to send it my way so I could get an earlier look at it. I'm anxious to talk about this guy. There's a few goofy things with him, goofy things that weren't there with Rampage, so I'm anxious to talk about this guy, but in order to do so, we gotta start with accessories. He comes with two translucent bull horns. I wish they weren't translucent, but that's the choice that they made. They are sculpted though, and that's nice enough. They go on in a particular way on a particular side, so just make sure that you have the kind of key system lined up properly, and then slide them on, and then you'll be able to swivel them wherever you desire. He comes with a sword. It is a base orange here with the silver painted on. It's probably a Tampo silver paint, but it looks really good. There's this translucent piece in there. I don't think it's meant to come out. Oh, maybe it is. Maybe it is, but I'm not comfortable doing it. I'll tell you that much. I'm not sure why it's there. If it's not meant to, I'm not exactly sure. I'll just be honest with you. But I got this handle here, and that can fold up. And he'll hold that just fine with the handle plugging into the palm of his hand. He also comes with a gun. It's a little goofy looking in my opinion, but you get some Tampo paint there. You get this silver paint underneath. You know, a little silver paint on top. It's cool enough, I guess, but it looks doofy. And he'll hold that just fine as well with the same system as the sword. It can also be pegged into the back piece of the kneecap in bull mode. So let's talk about the figure. First of all, proportionately way better than Rampage. I mean, just insanely so. I'm gonna chalk that up to it being an ABP, arm bot problem. So, I'm an idiot. Don't mind me. I'm tired. So, look, here we go. I like the proportions better, is the point, okay? I have a couple other weird, wonky things with this thing, though, man. Like, don't get me wrong. It's beautiful, and it really feels good. But, all right, let's just start. So, the head... First of all, you can get the bull head out of the way, which is nice to articulate the head. The head is on a ball peg. It's connected to this thing that's supposed to slot down into a tab in the back, but it doesn't stay super secure. So as you go to manipulate the head, it ends up coming untabbed. You got to tab it back in. Not the biggest deal in the world, but it does seem slightly less than professional, if I were to be honest. Then we have light piping. What are we doing? Come on. We paint figures too well, Cang Toys. You paint figures too well to be using light piping for the eyes. It looks dead, it looks muted, unless you have a flashlight that sits between the bull's head and the back of his head shining light through. Come on, knock it off. You're better than that, obviously. We have the red helmet, which is painted beautifully. We have the silver bits, which are painted beautifully. We have the expression with the teeth that aren't painted. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Been thinking about it a lot recently. I can see how it would look goofy if they were painted. However, it also looks goofy when they're not. So I don't know how to feel about it, but I'm bringing it up. Moving on. The shoulders. We have the shoulder pads. The shoulder pads are connected to the shoulder at the joint where it connects to the chest, which is the best way to do it. The orange is painted, the silver is painted. We have Tampo paint and then silver paint on this piece that can hinge as well. Suit your sensibilities however you desire. It's a ball peg here at the top to a hinge at the base, so you can kind of move it about as you see fit. The arm itself is a ratcheted universal. You can get up to there. You can get around. The around is ratcheted also. And that'll go all the way, you know, moving out of the way of the shoulder pad, of course. You have a bicep swivel. I'm almost halfway shocked that's not ratcheted. You have a double jointed elbow that gets you the full run. And then moving on to the forearm, beautiful red paint, beautiful Tampo paint, beautiful silver paint, beautiful Tampo paint in a darker gray. No issues. Silver paint on the top of the forearm. The wrist, swivel. The thumb is on a hinge that goes up and down, which is interesting. And then you have a secondary hinge where it meets that, and then a tertiary hinge. But you can't like spin the thumb around like this, but I'm kind of okay with it. It was a little jarring at first just because I'm not used to seeing it, but as I've been messing with it, posing it, etc., I'm kind of okay with it. And then you have the additional fingers. They can get straight out, which is nice. You have a pin at the base knuckle, and then you have a secondary pin, and that's all it took. So you didn't need 3 joints, you just need 2, and you'll still be able to get pretty much every pose you'll want out of the hands. Same for the other side. Now, Moving on to the chest. The orange is painted. The red is painted. The gray is probably painted. I'm just playing the odds. Tampo paint down here. Silver paint on the chest for the little honeycomb details. And then we have some chrome from the die cast. So you get a swivel. The hip skirts do kind of angle up a bit. As you can see, you can maneuver around. Just like as you go to like maneuver the legs, we got to move the hip skirts around and everything. Like, just be mindful of the tips. I think it probably would have been better if they went straight out, but that's just my own personal opinion. All right, so then we have an ab crunch. You get 2 clicks over, which is fine. A soft ratchet. Moving down to the pelvis, red paint, orange paint, silver paint, Tampo paint, Tampo paint. No complaints whatsoever. They're on ball pegs, so they'll swivel, and if you put too much tension on them, they should just pop off and not fail. We have universal joints for hips, ratcheted out to the side, and I love to see it. And then they ratchet down forward, you get the full Van Damme. And if we move this, you get the full Monty, also on a ratchet. No issues whatsoever. Thigh swivel around the base of the universal. And then you have, the detailings are the kind of chrome, but they're not chrome, it's just die cast knees. This is another wonky thing about this figure. So the knee itself, let's just do it. I think is single hinge. No, it might be double. The double just might be, you might not get much out of it. Either way, you get about 90 degrees, which is fine. Now, you see how that knee is off at an angle now? So as you're maneuvering the knee, you got to make sure that when you come up, that you maneuver the knee, the gray piece, back one as you bring it up so that it'll fit straight. Otherwise, he'll never be able to balance properly. It's a goofy thing design-wise, and I don't care for it. We have a silver accent there on the thigh that does look good. See, and the head has come loose. If you can see that connection there. You just had to plug it back in. Like I said, not the biggest deal in the world, but kind of a pain, a little less than professional. All right, lower legs, painted orange, painted silver. We have the die-cast pieces that stick through, all nicely done. Tampo paint throughout, no complaints. Same here with this ankle cover, which will hinge up. Not that you need it, but the ankles themselves is basically operating off this toe hinge for a toe tilt up. The whole ankle will move for an ankle tilt down, and the whole thing ranges out at this hinge for your ankle rocker to an extreme degree. So, I mean, it's pretty well done, dude. You know what I mean? Let's take a look at him from the back. Yeah, pretty clean. Definitely a stylized version, but a very well done stylized version. Well within their rights to do so. Size comparison wise, there he is next to DX9 Wild Rider and Fans Toys Iceman. So a little bit taller than the Fans Toys Limbots. Actually, it's probably not true. With the Fans Toys is in a little bit of a wider stance, so squished up, probably about the same size. There it is next to Fans Toys Galvatron and X-Transbot's Wild Rider, so just slightly shorter than Galvatron, which I think is probably perfect. At least it'll look good either way, do you know what I mean? So let's get this guy transformed, and in order to do so, we're gonna have to fillet this fish. So bring these chest pieces up and around to the front of the chest. Easier said than done, but they're on double hinges. There you go. There's one. And there's the other. On the back, you want to open this piece up and extend this. Whoop, came up on the ball peg there. Spin it 180 and sort of lay it flat. You can also bring out these side pieces and they will lay kind of at an angle around them as well. You can bring the bull's head down, bring the robot head back, and start just sort of opening all of this up. Take this chest piece, bring this forward, unplug your shoulder pieces from both sides, which will allow you to take the entire back assembly and shift that down on a double hinge and re-secure that. Your shoulder, take it up, spin it around 180 so that it comes back down the other side, and then spin your forearm or your bicep swivel back as well. And you're gonna wanna do that on both sides, spin it around, drop it down, spin at the bicep. You can then reattach your arms to the side here and on this side. All right, for the forearms, undo the double hinge here, tuck in the hand, bring down the hooves. Look at my hooves. Make sure that they're oriented properly. Bring this flap down and then spin so that it's facing the front. And then bring this up. And you also want to maneuver your shoulder pad here. And you got to fit all this together. So this sits in like that. Shoulder pad sits in. This pegs in to the back of the forearm, and all that will lock together. Let me see if I can't show you this any better, because it is pretty intricate. You have to first maneuver this shoulder pad, I would anyway, so that this peg here fits into that slot on the shoulder. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not exactly sure what the best order of operations is here, but there, so that's done. Now, accordion out your forearm guard, swap your fist with your hoove, and bring your hoof down in an appropriate location. Bring the silver piece back. And now your final steps are going to be, I don't know if you can see it, there's a slot right here that needs to tab into this tab here at the back of the bicep. Now the only thing that makes that somewhat challenging, and I got it lined up perfectly just there, is making sure like your shoulder, where this bicep, it swivels here at the shoulder, but it also swivels here at the elbow. So you have to make sure that these are lined up properly in order for the peg to line up. And then this shoulder pad pegs into the silver piece right here. I don't have mine quite right, but I have it right over here. So it should look like that. And now we have to secure the back. Get your tail out of your way, get this piece out of your way, and tuck the head in. It's on that slider. Bring this piece around as well. Now we got to start putting some of this back together. So extend the torso. It's on a double hinge. And make sure that your ab crunch is locked in place. And then bring this piece up and secure it to the back here. All right. And then we can start kind of putting everything back together. So take your orange flaps here, spin them, slide them, tuck them into place. Then take this piece here. This has 2 tabs. Bring this over, that'll tab into the back. Bring your orange pieces over. On the opposite side, bring this around, and this will sit in right in front of those ledges there. And then bring up your chest piece. You can have this orange piece kind of protected by folding it in, or you can have it out, you know, in the meantime and in between time, as it were. And this part I don't really care for, but you got to kind of press this in while spreading against the tabs that are kind of stuck in, just to get this neck piece in, and that will form the kind of neck of the bull. Let's get the knee pads up. They connect from here to here. We can do that on both sides. That's an easy step. On the inner calves, we can flip these out. Underneath, we can pull this stuff out. Then we want to disconnect and move out the entire hoof on both sides. I need to do this just so I can kind of keep myself oriented, but sort of just make sure you got all this stuff opened up. And when you have it, then you can spin all of this around so that at least you know what direction everything is supposed to go in. This has to come underneath and peg together. Same for this side. And as you get it up here, you'll kind of see this has to spin around. You can bring your tail out. And that'll at least get you started. So now on the underside, you're kind of left with this. You want to get this orange piece towards the front of the bull. And you want to have this, so you got to have the front. It's hard to explain, man. Basically, this has to come this way, but this piece has to rotate out, so the bull leg needs to be facing the other way, in short. And it spins down here, but all of these joints are super tight, which just makes it a little aggravating to do so. So there's one. Once you get it to this point, you can tab that back in. We gotta rock this back. Bring the orange piece up and around. Rotate at the bottom swivel 180 degrees so that when we bring it in, it will sit accordingly, and you can plug it back in there. Sheesh. Look, I just want to stress this because this is the trickiest part, and I don't think I had it right, but I had to go back and fix it. So this is what you're looking for underneath. The orange flap, the bars from the orange flap closest to the right hand side is always going to be that way, but the orange flap is going to be on top. Then the first gray bar, the first knuckle is closer to the inside, which comes down to the second knuckle, which both fold in towards the middle. And then you have your shin pads sitting here so that the tampo paint is facing forward, and that's how you know you've got it right. It's very tricky, and these joints are super tight, sometimes too tight where you don't even expect them to move, which makes the kind of intuitive nature of it get thrown right out the window. That's what you're looking for. Knuckle, knuckle, facing in to the swivel. Pause it when you have it in hand, it'll make sense. On the back, you'll find a little channel for the tail, and once you've done so, make sure you got these silver things flipped up. Just line it up and squeeze together. And then at the front, these orange pieces have these little gray tabs, and they come in and clip underneath the collar piece that we flipped up the head on. And I don't care much for that either. Your last step is these double hinges here, but I don't know if you can see that. It is splitting that hinge. Like, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stress marks on the side of that hinge, and then it would sit down, you know, kind of appropriately. I'm not going to do it on the other side. I don't want to break this thing. That would be a kind of a fatal break. I'll clean it up. We'll take a look at it. Let's talk about them. So you can kind of pull the arm out away from the body a bit to get an extra range. It doesn't really work much for a butterfly joint in robot mode, but you can kind of use it in bull mode. And then you're kind of limited to a forward motion of there and a backward motion to there. Not much. You have a backward leg bend, and you have the ball peg down here for the hooves, which will get you a bit of a rocker, which is nice, and a swivel gets it some personality. The head, you can get a downward motion. The ring on the nose moves a bit, and the jaw moves. We have light piping on the inside of the eyes, which does you no good whatsoever, so that's stupid. We have the mouth, which will open up, That's fine. Looks good enough. And then you have translucent horns, which they should have painted also, in my opinion. Back legs. We have this forward and back movement here. We have a knee, which I think is facing the wrong way, you know, technically. And then we have another ball peg. And then the tail, we have a wiggle up, we have a waggle, we have a secondary wiggle, and a tertiary wiggle. So 1, 2, I mean, you can move this thing all over the place. This tail is very nicely done and sculpted. It's got a little bit of paint on there too. I dig all of that. It's pretty clean, but it's not very elegant. But I guess bulls aren't very elegant. But I guess you get a little sideward motion here too. It's hard to keep track of what you have articulation wise and movement wise in these hind legs because of how tight some of those tolerances are, which is unfortunate. But yeah, I think it works. I wish you got a little bit more range out of the bull's head. But I think that overall it works pretty nicely. Tiger tracks. We're gonna try to get it to leg mode. It says right underneath the fist, so right here, there's actually a little bump out that should come down and grab onto that orange tab that was sticking out right there. So boom. And then same on this side. Move the bull head up, open up this chest flap, rotate your combiner port up, and take your chest flap, fold in flap 1, fold in flap 2, and connect. Then we're going to bring our leg out. We're going to rotate. Jeez, whiz. Then we're going to take this piece here. That pegs into the underside, the orange peg. We then need to get out this little flap, which probably should have been down when we went to bull mode, honestly. But I can't, like, you know what I mean? It's so ridiculous. I'll try to get it out off camera. No dice, can't get it, even scratched his paint in an attempt to get it, so sorry, buddy. And to the viewers, I'm sorry as well. All right, same with this one, rotate it out. God bless, dude. Flip this up, peg it into the orange flap, bring the red piece down, and then fold up both of your bull feet. This would normally sit underneath that flap. Then we have to bring out this whole bit of business here. And we basically need to put it back the way it was, but this time we're gonna spread its wings so it can fly. This will come back down and tab in using those same two bits there. And then the bull's head comes down and sort of sits there, and the tail just collapses straight up, I believe. And I'll clean it up and we'll take a look at it. So it's pretty good. The tail does fold all the way up like it was in robot mode. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe if I like it with the head down a little bit more. But you have that option, so that's cool. Not quite as clean as Rampage, but certainly pretty good. So the leg mode, once again, I'm happy with, which is what counts for me at this point. Pretty clean, pretty solid. There's no foot. So I can't really, it looks like there's little two circles there that is gonna just clip around, but that seems very TFC to me. Like it seems, I don't know. I still have big concerns about this set. Even as good as some of the elements are about this. This in particular, that's an old school connection there too for the legs. So I have my concerns. We shall see, but objectively, leg mode still looking good. So no issues. Final thoughts. So honestly, I have a lot more negatives to say about this guy than I did Rampage, which is ironic because I think this guy looks a lot better than Rampage. But let me see if I can start rattling them off without missing any. For one, the tolerances on some of those pieces, specifically those gray armature pieces that move towards the back, are a complete disaster. They are a nightmare, and they're troublesome to deal with. In fact, the ones at the front with the die-cast pieces for the ankle covers are also a nightmare and are cracking the side pieces that are pinning them to them. The knees are wonky. You got to make sure that you have the knee kind of properly placed within the cavity in order to get the bot to stand right. The robot head has a hard time staying stuck into the neck. The shoulder flaps that act as a butterfly in bull mode have a hard time staying stuck in the lower configuration. Speaking of that, the back plate, which is connected to that, has a hard time lining up quite properly with the tabs in the lower connection as well. Once again, tolerance, clearance. We've already covered the stress marks. The bull's head has pretty limited movement, and the engineering seems to have one or two too many swivels to pull off something that's not all that elegant in the first place. It seems like you got to go through a lot of steps to get something that's kind of close enough, but not quite right. Or maybe right isn't the right word, but it seems like more work than what it pays off. There are positives, though. Don't get me wrong. The robot mode looks infinitely better, in my opinion, than Rampage. The proportions are so much closer to something that looks somewhat human. And I know it's a robot, but you know what I mean. It's painted beautifully. Once again, top to bottom. Tons of different decos coming through. Metallic paints, flats, tampo paints, even the chrome elements that aren't really chrome, but look as though they are just because they're unfinished die cast ends up looking cool. But while I'm on the subject of paint, I have to also mention that I hate that they're still using light piping. Get over it. Enough. You're far too capable to be doing that. While some of the engineering is super frustrating due to the tolerances, other engineering is kind of very sophisticated and fun and interesting and dynamic, like the arm transformation going from robot arm to bull arm. It has a strong presence, mainly due to the size, the wicked kind of gnarly sculpt. The materials feel great. It has great hardware. There's die-cast parts included. The articulation in robot mode is pretty much top shelf. I'm still on the fence with this stuff. There's a lot of good here. There's also some questionable stuff, and we still don't know how it's going to combine. It's time to start showing how it's going to combine. If this dude is wearing monkey pants, I'm probably out. I'm more worried after dealing with this one than I was with the previous. And I say that to say this, I like the robot one of this one far more than the previous. I haven't had a combiner set give me this much anxiety in a very long time. I'm unsure. All I can tell you is what I've told you and hope that you make the decision that's best for you. Thanks to Joel for the opportunity. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.